minister. You know what I'm saying? So any opportunity for me to spit a little something, Rod, you know, I'm going to take advantage of that. This is urban inspirational metaphysics. Word? Word? And that's my DJ. You know what my DJ now said? Now, whoa. I got to do better than that for my DJ, y'all. You know my DJ, man. Come on now, set up there. Just a little something. Just a little something. Yeah, can we get a hand clap? Can we get a little hand clap? Come on, we need more energy. Come on, we need. Y'all ready for this? Okay, we'll go like this. I don't know what y'all heard about me. I represent a different kind of ministry. H-I-P-H-O-P, that's me. Check out the lessons if you want to be free. I don't know what y'all heard about me. I represent a different kind of ministry. H-I-P-H-O-P, that's me. Check out the lessons if you want to be free. Yes, in the space and time that I breathe. Off the top of the T-O-P. I'll be the liberty that you see. Vindicate me, Lord, for I have walked in my integrity. I have also trusted in the Lord. I shall not slip. Examine me. Try my mind and my heart. For your loving kindness is before my eyes. I have not sat with idolatrous mortals, nor will I go with hypocrites. I've hated the sin of evildoers, and I will not sin with the wicked. I will wash my hands in innocence. So I'm going to come about your altar and proclaim in a voice of thanksgiving until the Lord will one of his works. Lord, I love the habitation of your house and the place where your glory dwells. Do not gather my soul with sinners, nor with men whose life is about bloodthirsty riches. Vindicate me, redeem me. I have come for you. Yeah. So I say, I don't know what you heard about me. I represent a different kind of ministry. H-O-P, that's me. Check out the lesson if you want to be free. Welcome. Let's be still right quick. This here Rockman right here, our wound washed man. Lift Kadesh Shema. Transmitting live from the planet Earth. I am the celestial being servant. Your sincere, evolving revolutionary, verifying eternal reality. God is everything, and everything is God. I said God is everything, and everything is God. One more time. God is everything, and everything is God. Word up. Welcome to InSpiritTruthCenter, where we are continuously walking this path of urban, inspirational metaphysics. I get excited every time I say it. You know, I get excited about that. Because what we have to realize is that all of us, whether you're up here doing a lesson or just in the audience, we are pioneers. We are pioneering something that 100 years from now, people will still be able to access. And they will be able to touch the Christ within themselves just by what we're doing now. So let's not underestimate what we're doing. Word? Word? All right, now, as you know, this is the month of March. And what is our spiritual gift for this month? All right, now, I do not want the ministers to answer. What is the spiritual factor for this month? And who is the disciple? Cookies. The disciple is Andrew, Peter's brother. Okay? And the color is? Green. Spring green. And the physical body part is? The lower back. Now listen, as you all know, I am a teacher more than a preacher. We have ministers who can preach circles around me. But I'm a teacher, so I do what I do. So when I come, be prepared for lessons in truth. That's what we are doing. So today, as we are getting prepared for our urban inspirational metaphysical lessons in truth, it's important for us to know how to use our own spiritual gifts. Word? Word? I mean, because we all have them. Whether we use them or not is really a choice. But if we don't understand how to use them, how can we use them? So as I was preparing the lesson, I was watching some of the coverage on the 50th anniversary of the March, the Selma March. And as I was sharing this morning on the Daily Source of Light call, let me go back. A few months ago, someone from AIB came here and taped us doing what we do, and I did an interview with them. It's been airing on AIB, and I apologize for not, I apologize for not letting people know that that's airing. I tell people, I know my weaknesses, and one of my weaknesses, I am terrible about promoting the things I do. I'm terrible. Help me, y'all. Help me get better at that. I just do what I do, and hopefully somebody else will promote it. But somebody on the Daily Source of Light call this morning was like, Minister Serve, I loved you at AIB. And I was like, oh, that's right. I know I'm terrible. I know I am. But I will post the link on our Facebook page because the lady sent me the link. For those that may have entered already, I'm sure what cable system we have. But they're doing a segment that's called Emergent Movements in Christianity. And she was so intrigued by the concept of urban inspirational metaphysics that when I went to AID to do the interview, she was like, no, I got to come see it. And she came and Minister Judy did a fantastic lesson. I think that's when you were doing the Jesus series, talking about the passion. And it moved us so much. So believe me, y'all, we are doing a tremendous work. So let's keep that going. Word? Okay, let me get to my lesson. Okay. The lesson for the day is the Lord is the strength of my life. And when you look at scripture, that is italicized. So whenever you see a word that's italicized, it's an extra emphasis on that. So the Lord is the strength of my life. And when we think about our spiritual faculty of strength and what that gives us the ability to do, it's directly correlated to what we're celebrating this weekend, which is what they call Bloody Sunday. And for those that may not remember what Bloody Sunday is, it's when they were doing a march from Selma to Montgomery, of course, the Independence Bridge, and things of that nature. And the cops, the government officials, the ones that pay to protect people, rained down on the people and just did terrible things. You know, the movie Selma dramatizes exactly what went on there. And yesterday, you had people that converged on Selma, Alabama to commemorate the 50th anniversary. And yet what struck me most is that 50 years later, we're still dealing with those same issues. You know, it's not an accident to me that the same week in the Justice Department, the report came out about Ferguson and about the discrimination. And for those of us that are black folks, we weren't surprised about that, word? The sad part is that we weren't surprised about that. And the even sadder part about that is that we know that it's not just Ferguson, the only city that's doing that. Come on, we know that's happening in Atlanta. Word? It's happening all over the country, and yet, how do we combat that? Well, one of the ways that we can combat that is using our spiritual faculty of strength. You know, I was sharing with Minister Jehudi, when we think about the March of Selma, of course, we know the famous people, you know, Dr. King and John Lewis and some others, but just for a moment, think about the nameless, faceless ancestors. The ones that had the strength to endure and go through, even though we would never know some of their names. And yet they used their spiritual faculty of strength, even if they weren't consciously aware that that's what they were doing. See, because we use our spiritual gifts all the time. And yet, you know, as true students, we want to be consciously aware of what we're doing. So we can use it more and we can be a better example so other people can see how it can be used and they can incorporate it into their lives. Word? So when we talk about our spiritual faculty of strength, one of the abilities that it gives us is the ability to have patience. And I don't know about you all, but that's something that I still work with. Having patience. And you see, sometimes I just want it down and right now. I'm getting better as I get older and wiser, I believe, Stan. But patience is something, you know, which is the ability to really learn how to take your time. Let it come in a natural flow and learn how to be still. Sometimes, you know, we live in this society where, particularly as men, sometimes we want to make it happen, make it happen, make it happen, make it happen. And the reality is sometimes that really is counterproductive. You know, we have to learn how to be quiet sometimes. And that's even more challenging to do because we have all these different outside mechanisms that are constantly blaring in our ear. Do this, do that, you need that, you need that, you need to go away and get this. And to take time just to get still You know, that's one of the biggest challenges that most of the brothers that I talk to, when you even talk to them about meditation and their feeling nature and your intuitiveness. Come on, sir, I'm just saying, I'm already breathing. I'm just saying, I know you're breathing, but I'm just saying, take time to, that good sister was just saying when he came up here, some deep cleansing breaths, getting still. And I'm telling you, to me, it's funny, but it's not funny. Because when you look at the challenges that, all of us are dealing with challenges, but us as black men, we deal with so many different challenges that only us as black men can relate to, word? And this is a daily operation that don't push me, because I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder. I keep from going under, man. How do we do this? Well, one of the ways that we do it is simply getting still and becoming one with the Christ within. Because sometimes there are outside variables that you simply cannot change. But you can always change your response to it. Word? You can always change the way that you're going to see it, the way you're going to react to it, the way that you're going to let it affect your actual being. You always have the ability to do that. Word? And one of the ways to do it is through our spiritual gift of strength. Learning just to be still. If you take about 10 minutes a day, you can do more, fine, but start off with about 10 minutes a day when you don't have anything on. Or if you do have something playing, it's just kind of like a soundscape. Not something that has where you'll be bobbing your head. It's something where you kind of be still. And learn to listen to that still small voice inside. So many times when we look at our ancestors, I tell people, whenever I'm feeling, feel like having a pity party, I feel like, oh, why Lord has happened to me, I make myself think about my ancestors. I consciously make myself think about my ancestors, because the truth that I know is that anything I'm going through now pales in comparison to what they've already achieved victory over. Word? What they've already conquered. And if it's true of them, then it's true of me. And yet learning to be still to access that. That's one of the blessings that all of us have at any time. You can do it anywhere. Using that patience. Also in our spiritual gift of strength, it gives us the ability to activate tolerance. Now, tolerance is a word that people throw out there all the time, and sometimes we don't really go to the spiritual side of that. What tolerance really gives us the ability to do is to be okay with not agreeing with something. Not understand and say, I don't really know why they're doing that, but I'm going to have enough tolerance to not judge that, to not try to condemn that, to not say, well, no, y'all need to be doing it this way. Or y'all need to be in that building. Y'all need to do this kind of prayer, or wear these kind of clothes, or eat this kind of food, or this kind of, no. That's one of the challenges that, it's always been interesting to me since I was a child, that we say Abraham is the father of monotheism. He's the father of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And yet the Christians, the Jews, and the Muslims always seem to be fighting. What is that really about? It's because sometimes the tolerance that we have with things we don't understand. Dr. Shirley Long, one of my teachers at BKSM, took me a great lesson. She said, sometimes when it's something that kind of, when it's something that we don't agree with, and it kind of rubs you the wrong way, you kind of feel uncomfortable about it, well, that's when you use your gift of strength and just say, you know what, I just don't understand it. I'm not going to judge it or condemn it, but I can tolerate and say, I just don't understand it, and be okay with that. The situations that's happening in this country right now, a lot of the barriers that we have because we don't really understand each other. And I'm talking about even black folks among black folks. There's this big gap that's occurring now between black folks that, we look at the people that are acting out, and let me make it even more specific. In hip-hop particularly, I have a number of peers who have allowed themselves to blame the rappers that they don't like, and for their reason not to be still involved with hip-hop culture. Whereas though, I don't necessarily have to like every rapper. I'll never like every rapper that's been out. I don't know about you, but we can try to say back in the day, everybody wasn't dope back in the day. Come on, Steve. There was a lot of whack rappers back in the day. A lot. So it's not like, you know, we have to kind of judge where we are now with that. But I've learned to tolerate whackness. I don't understand it. I don't understand whackness. But I use my gift of tolerance and say, hey, I understand it, but okay, I'll keep it moving. And, you know, that's how our ancestors were. You know, they had the, you know, that level of tolerance, man. I mean, just, to, you know, they say that they have, there's in the Civil Rights and Human Rights Museum, for what I haven't been there yet, but I hear that there's a reenactment of the lunch counters, where people can go and sit and kind of, you know, be the ones that, you know, do the nonviolent social work. I'm not ready for that yet. I'm just saying. I'm not there yet. I would like to get there, but my level of tolerance, somebody pouring coffee on me and ketchup, and I'm not there yet. Work with me, y'all. Work with me. I'm looking to get there. But tolerance is something that, you know, just in our family members. You know, sometimes we have family members and friends that, why are they acting like that? What? I know that they was raised to say, well, I was raised, that's my brother, that's my sister, but what is going on? And sometimes we let that tear families apart. So because we can't tolerate that, they are working in their own divinity. Everybody is perfect, whole, and complete according to God. Word? Right now, I don't care how it looks to me, but according to God, everybody is exactly where they're supposed to be. So, whether we at work and you have the co-worker who is the one that every time you have a staff meeting, you got to be one brown nose, and that gets on my nerves sometimes. I'm like, okay, I don't know why they're doing that, but I'm learning to use my gift of tolerance. You know what I'm saying? I don't know the point of that. But, so, you know, again, as we come forward and be able to activate the Christ within us, let us never forget the whole point of what we're doing is to manifest the Christ within. Word? That's why Jesus came. Jesus didn't come just so we could be like, yo, Jesus, okay, hook me up. I said your name, hook me up. No, that is not what it is. Jesus came that we may have life and have the what? More abundantly, so we may have life. And that's why he picked the 12 disciples, to show that it's not just about him. It's not about Jesus, it's about the Christ. Let me say that again. It's not about Jesus. It's about the Christ. Jesus is our teacher and way shower. Jesus is the one that showed us. Jesus said out of his own teaching, these things that I do, you too shall do, and greater. Wow. Just to do the same thing, we have to understand the teachings. Now, another part of our spiritual gift of strength is our ability to have balance. And we know as true students, we operate in the fullness of our thinking nature and our feeling nature, right? So sometimes the mind is telling you one thing and the heart is telling you another thing. So in my mind, I'm logical, I'm analytical, I got it all laid out, I'm like, okay. But then when I get to the point where my heart is saying something different, I ain't really feeling that. That's when the conflict comes. That's when we have to learn how to balance that. How do we balance our thinking nature and our feeling nature? Well, we do it through our spiritual gift of strength. Because everything that God has given us is already complete within us. It's about our own level of consciousness to understand how to bring it forward in our own lives to use it. You know, there's a scripture that says, when two or more come together and touch and agree, I am in the midst. God speaking said, I am in the midst. Reverend Carol Payne, rest in peace, one of our teachers at BKSM as well. She said those two or more are your heart and your mind. Or your heart and your mind. Come together. See, I get confused on that, right? Your heart and your mind. When those two come together and touch and agree. So it's not always about a person, because I tell you, when I was in ministry school, I used to ask very childlike questions, because I was really trying to understand. I didn't want to act like I knew what I did not know. So my thing was like, always, okay, well, if it has to be two or more, what if you can't get somebody to touch and agree? I mean, God can't make the mess. What is that? And Reverend Carroll was like, no, that's, you know, if you're trying to take it literally. But the metaphysical, the two or more is your mind and your heart. And I was like, oh. That was one of the last lessons I remember her teaching me before she made her transition. Oh, man, it was a wonderful lesson, because sometimes I can't find a person on earth to agree with what I'm doing or what I'm trying to do. But if I get my mind and my heart in alignment, then I know God is right there. It's simply a matter of me having enough courage and faith. Word? Come on now. Word? Because sometimes God tells us something in our mind and he gives it to us in our heart. And yet to manifest it on earth, we question ourselves with that. We're like, well, let me go to my minister. Let me go to my friend. And you can go to these people for advice and counsel, but the Christ is within you all the time. Word? The Christ is within you all the time. And as you learn how to use your spiritual gifts, then even when you go to someone, you're going to want for them for affirmation, not so much confirmation. For affirmation, not, okay, yeah, I already knew it, but I want to hear Minister say to me, okay, cool, I'm on this. That's that same thing. That balance. And also one of the things that our faculty of strength gives us is the ability of perseverance. Now, perseverance simply means to keep on keeping on. Like, there's so many times in this ministry, as Minister Julie was talking about, there are plenty of times where Minister Jehudi, Minister Stan, any of us can say, I'm going to go back to the church because I don't know what they're doing. It's taking too long. Ain't enough people. What we want. But because we all consciously and unconsciously use our spiritual gift of strength, then we use the ability to persevere. To say, we can see the end. We know how it's going to end. Word? We can see this room packed. And whether it's this physical place or not, there's going to be a time where there won't be enough room for people to come in InSpiritTruthCenter. Y'all don't hear me out there. There will be a time where people got to line up and we got to do the overflow, as they call it. Word? Come on now, how about that? Word? Can you see that? Can you really see that? That's going to happen. I truly see that. And yet we know that there takes some perseverance to do that. If it was easy to do, as I tell my students, if it was easy, everybody would do it. I don't do regular. I'm not into regular. I don't want to do what everybody can do. I want to do what only the ones that recognize themselves as the gods and goddesses on earth. We came to earth to set things straight. I know there's some of y'all that ain't right. Check it. You know what I'm saying? It's like we came here to do it. I tell my students all the time. I think sometimes we just, we say we're in the image and likeness of God and it feels good, it sounds good, but do we really believe that? God could have made you a giraffe. He could have made you a cow. He could have made you a pig. He could have made you whatever. But God made you in his image and likeness and gave you power, dominion over everything in the air, on the land, and the sea. So it's really just a matter of us, first of all, believing that, and then understanding and learning how to work that. And that's where our big brother Jesus comes in. When you look at Jesus' teaching, when you look at the 12 disciples, can you imagine these dudes for real? Like, they were unlearned, they weren't, studying. Only one of the disciples, was living for what they said that was nasty. The rest of them was just going on what they believed. And even though Jesus told them these types of things that you would do, they didn't really believe it until after Jesus left. Word? Now, when you read in the book of Acts and Romans and things of that nature, and you read some of the things that the disciples did, you're like, wow. Peter raised the dead. I didn't hear about that growing up. I never knew that Peter raised the dead. I knew Jesus raised the dead, but I never knew that Peter raised the dead. When I found out Peter raised the dead, I was like, oh, snap, not Peter. Peter was a nut. Peter was back and forth, and Peter represents faith, because our faith wavers like that. Sometimes we're strong in it. There's nothing you can say, Lord, I'm going to be here with you. Stop fronting. You're going to front before the crow come up 3 times. You're going to front on me. But even when he fronted, he came forward to himself and came right back around. So we have that same thing. We go through that same process. So as we persevere, we learn how to use our spiritual gifts. As we learn how to put it into practice, how I use my truth. We have everything that we know. I can't tell you anything that you don't already know. I can't give you anything that you don't already have. What I am is a pretty good reminder. I'm a good reminder. I remind you that the Christ within you is real. So when you hear me say the reason why you touch and agree, because it's the truth. You know Christ is in you. You know you have the ability to control your own destiny along with your creator. Word? Nobody has control over your life. And I talk to my students, sometimes they come from circumstances where the parents haven't done this or the parents haven't done that. They dropped out of school and they're trying to get their GED and things of that nature. So sometimes it's easy to start trying to make excuses. Well, if my mama would have done this, my daddy would have done this, the school would have done. And I'm like, man, also, so what? I don't want to hear none of that. I don't want to hear none of that because my circumstances are similar to many of them. I come from the so-called projects of Lansing, New Jersey. My mother was a single parent with multiple baby daddies and a whole nine. And yet at some point in your life, you have to decide about your life. Let me say that again. At some point in your life, you have to decide about your life. The one thing that I consistently tell my students is take your life seriously. Because no one else is going to take it any more serious than you take it. But as you begin to take it serious, you will gather those things to this law of attraction. It's not an accident that all of us are in this room together. That's not accidental. Like minds attract like minds, word? So if you are with people that are not going anywhere, you're going nowhere with those people. I don't care how fly you want to make it look. Now they have this kind of thing where, you want to make it look fly to be the dumbest dude on the block. What? What is that about? I was telling my students, you talk about perseverance. Just imagine 300 years, just in a time span, 300 years. Wow. And then imagine for those 300 years, it was illegal to learn how to read and write. Illegal. And so much to the point where eyes were getting gouged out, tongues cut off, people murdered. Simply for learning to acquire the knowledge that right now, any of us can pull out our cell phones with us, have knowledge and information right at our fingertips. How dare us not take advantage of that? How dare us not take advantage of it? Particularly when we're talking about just 50 years ago, we were just trying to get the right to vote, man. Just 50 years ago, 100 years after the Civil War. So obviously, perseverance is still a part of this mission. Word. Obviously, we still need to learn how to use our spiritual faculty of strength. So every day and every way, and every opportunity that you have to do that, take advantage of that. Because at the end of the day, wherever you are, God is. It is true. You let it be, and there it is. Keep shining, y'all. Word.